Hello, my name is Javnyuy Joybert. I am a doctoral candidate in business administration with specialization in entrepreneurship and investment with Kesmonds University International America. This video is part of my doctoral program with KIU. And today we'll be talking about ethical issues in business and entrepreneurship. It is imperative that entrepreneurs and executives should intentionally master how to do business ethically. If you look at the African continent, one of the major challenges that we get to face with government leaders and business people, you can say, is the issue of ethics, bribery, corruption, bad customer service, poor treatment of staffs, and all of this. And I think that mastering ethics in business and entrepreneurship is imperative for the African marketplace. And many of our examples that I will share throughout this video session will focus on the African marketplace and sometimes specifically Cameroon. Now, more than ever, our governments, our businesses, nations, and the world need leaders full of integrity, ethics, and character. It is worth taking a stand as a business leader, as a business executive, at any level that you lead, and work with your team and let them know that as a business leader, you have this moral code, you have this moral you have made this moral decision that you will never ask them to do something illegal, immoral, or unethical. What are ethical issues really? Ethics is fairness in business. Ethics is justice. Ethics is equity. Ethics is honesty, trustworthiness, equality. Acting in an ethical way involves distinguishing between right and wrong and making the right choice. Fairness in business dealings means being objective and having an interest in creating a win-win situation between both parties, whether these parties could be between an employer and an employee or between a company and a client. And what do we really mean by ethical issues in entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurial ethics are those codes of conduct employed by entrepreneurs or used by entrepreneurs which impact the society positively, thereby increasing the entrepreneur's chance for greater success. And business ethics are moral principles that guide the way a business behaves or the way a businessman conducts business. And business intelligence and success is reached based on ethics and hard work rather than cutting corners and taking unethical actions. This is very imperative. When you look at the African continent, you look at Cameroon and several other African countries, you will notice that many young people get to do business without thinking about ethical issues or whether their actions are ethical. Many young people struggle to cut corners and take unethical actions just to make money or to look glamorous or to impress people who don't even care how they live their lives. And it is imperative to know that business people must decide to make ethics a principal value of their business mission. The entrepreneur today should embrace doing business ethically in order to improve their standards. Establishing a code of ethics for your business to operate by will greatly help you as a business executive to lay a firm foundation of basic trust between you and your employees, between you and the clients, between you and your partners, between you and your suppliers, between you and any key stakeholder that directly or indirectly impacts the growth of your business. And when you talk about ethics in business and entrepreneurship, we cannot exclude the fact that there is a relationship between ethics and management. Managers, people who manage people, you can create a business but you are not the manager, it's possible. And ethical issues managers confront cover a wide range of topics, but most of times Ethical issues arise due to a potential conflict between personal goals of the manager and goals of the organization, what is popularly called conflict of interest, and the fundamental right of important stakeholders. For managers, stakeholders have the basic right that should be respected, and it is unethical to violate those rights. It's imperative to understand. For example, you are the chief executive officer of your business, the managing director, general manager, whatever position that you occupy, where your operations and your management responsibilities directly impact some key stakeholders. It is imperative for you as a manager to know that your stakeholders have the basic right that should be respected, and it is unethical for you as a manager or an executive to violate these basic rights. What examples of these basic rights? For example, shareholders. Shareholders have the right to timely and accurately have access to information about their investments. That is their right. And it is unethical for a manager not to provide this information to shareholders. Customers have the right to be fully informed about the products and services they purchase, including how to use that product, including how this product may harm them. And it is unethical for a business person or for a manager to restrict access to this kind of information to customers. It is also the manager's position to ensure that employees have the right to a safe working environment or safe working conditions, have the right to fair compensation for the work they perform, and to be treated in a just manner by the manager. This is ethical, and it is unethical for a manager not to provide safe working conditions for the employees. Suppliers too and distributors have the right to expect contracts to be respected. It is unethical for you not to respect the contract between you and your supplier. So let's talk about the common ethical issues facing business today. Yeah, I think if you follow the news, you'll get to hear so many unethical issues happening. For example, sexual harassment has been on the rise in the last 2-3 years in the workplace. This is very unethical. Discrimination, being treated differently because of your culture, your religion, your tribe, or because of your disability. This is unethical. Social media, where employees, instead of being productive and attending to clients in the workplace, they are busy on their mobile phones. It is unethical to do that. Accounting practices, manipulating financial data to embezzle funds or to lie or to bypass taxes and so on. That is unethical. These are common examples of unethical issues facing business today. One thing is that ethics provide the basic rules and parameters for conducting any activity in any acceptable manner. That is why it is important to understand what is a good ethical decision. Because as business leaders, entrepreneurs, managers, you will always have to make ethical decisions. What is a good ethical decision? A good ethical decision generates and sustains trust, demonstrate respect for both parties, responsibility, fairness, caring, and are consistent with good citizenship. So if you're about to make a decision and you're wondering, is this decision a good ethical decision? These are things you should be looking for. A good ethical decision should generate and sustain trust between two parties, to demonstrate respect for the two parties. There should be responsibility for the two parties. There should be fairness. There should be caring, and they should be consistent with good citizenship. And of course, we cannot talk about ethics in business and entrepreneurship without talking about one of the most important documents that need to be prepared for ethics to reign in a business. We are talking about Code of Ethics. This document is an important document that every startup, every business, every institution should develop and keep. A code of ethics you can say that it is a declaration of principles and beliefs that govern how employees of an institution are to behave. And a code of ethics too should be inspirational, and it should be disciplinary. That is, if you explain what should be done as far as ethics is concerned, you can state clearly what are the disciplinary systems involved if an employee goes against this particular ethics. And of course, a good code of ethics should be stable over a period of time. And how can a business avoid ethical issues? Or in other words, how can a business promote ethics? How can a manager, how can a leader promote ethics in business? Number one is top management support. It is difficult for ethics to reign in business if there is no top management support. Number two is the document we just spoke about, Code of Ethics. One of the best ways to promote ethics in business is to have a document that promotes Code of Ethics and talks about ethics. And you can create time, maybe like during onboarding sessions when you are recruiting new staff, or during staff meetings, and you teach your team about this code of ethics. Number three, organize ethics training program. Yes, create a special retreat session just to teach your team about the ethics. And number four, motivation to focus on honesty and integrity. You can make sure that honesty, integrity, trust, and fairness are a key part of your workplace culture in the organization. And why is it important, or why is it critical to address ethical issues in business? It is super imperative. It is super imperative. Number one, employees make better decisions in less time when business ethics are available, where they can use it as their guiding principle. Number two, the reputation of a business in that community is increased when a business respects ethics and carry out business in a fair and just manner. The reputation of that business increase in that town, in that country, in that continent. It is imperative. Number three, customers love to buy from ethical businesses. We have seen situations whereby customers boycott a company because they went against something. They did not stand up for something that is right in the community. Customers love to buy from ethical businesses, and investors love to invest in ethical businesses. Number four, addressing ethical issues in business increases the brand reputation. Branding is very important. The perception that people have about your business in the community or in that environment is very important for your business. Also, reputation, ethical issues in business improves customer satisfaction and consequently profitability. When customers are satisfied, they practice repeat and regular purchase, and repeat and regular purchase leads to increase in profitability. And of course, protection of the society. When a business practices ethics, they protect the society. For example, climate change. It is ethical for a business to respect climate change policies, which in turn protects the society. Now let's talk about some examples of unethical business practices. Just examples so that you can take a temperature of your business. Maybe one of these things should be happening in your business, and you can take actions immediately to sort that out. Abusive behavior is an unethical issue in business. Too many workplaces are filled with managers and supervisors who use their position and power to mistreat employees or disrespect others. That is unethical. Abusive behavior, using your power, is unethical. Employee theft, where employees can steal equipment and go use for personal use. That is totally unethical. Lying to employees, yes, where the employer or the supervisor or the director or the manager is lying to employees. That is unethical. Misleading product information, not giving customers the right information about the product. That is unethical. Or lying to the customer that this product can do this, meanwhile the core benefit of that product cannot do what you say that the product can do. That is not good. Bribery, corruption, embezzlement, these are unethical issues in business. And unethical behavior in business refers to actions that fail to rise to the acceptable standard of business practices. That's the meaning what we're talking about. Any behavior in the business, either by the staff, by the leader, by the executive, any behavior or actions that fail to rise to the standards, acceptable standards of doing business is unethical. It can also be said to be manipulating someone without his or her permission in the business. That is unethical behavior. And unethical behavior is also a way of acting that the society disapproves of it. Right? There are general societal standards that the society upholds, and when you act against these societal standards, it is termed unethical behavior. It is the behavior that is bad, that is wrong in a particular setting. And what are consequences of unethical practices in business? Number one, employees feel ashamed. They feel ashamed or embarrassed by their own company. They don't feel proud working in that company. Number two, it prevents cooperation and trust among employees, which leads to low morale among your employees. Number three, sanctions from the government or the regulating agency. Absolutely. When you practice unethical behaviors, you can be sanctioned by your regulating agency or the government in place. Definitely low sales and consequently low profitability. So how can you solve unethical issues in the workplace? How can you solve unethical issues in business? Number one, have a proper onboarding process. What does that mean? Don't just recruit staff. When you recruit staff, part of the onboarding process should involve you teaching the new staff the ethics that you respect in your workplace. Number two, be sure to have a clear code of conduct. Have a document that clearly documents the ethics that the business holds in high standards. Number three, implement security measures. Like for example, in the stock in a warehouse, you can decide and put surveillance measures like cameras and track it to ensure that employees don't steal. That's a way of holding them accountable. Number three, punish appropriately. Have a punishment, not the word punishment, let's use have a disciplinary a measure that you can discipline your staff when they practice unethical behaviors. Now let's talk about 7 ethical principles that any executive, any business leader can use in the process of designing their code of ethics or making a decision as far as ethics is concerned. Number one is trust. The first principle, the first ethical principle is trust. Customers and clients want to do business with a company, with an institution that is trustworthy. Trust is the first ethical principle. Number two, quality. That is complete dedication to high quality standards across the company. It's very important. Number three, follow through. What does that mean? It means that truth and trustworthiness is built on follow through. That is meeting your obligations and commitments as you promise. If you make a promise to your employees, make sure you follow through with that promise. If you make a commitment to your customer, make sure you follow through with that commitment. Number four, corporate citizenship is the fourth ethical principle. What does that mean? It is not just about customers who care. Recently, employees have, professionals pay a close attention to the kind of companies they work for. Professionals nowadays, especially millennials, are people that love to work for companies that are making more than money. What do I mean? People now love to work for companies that are contributing positively to the society. So look at corporate citizenship. Number five, value creation. Businesses are designed to create value for people. But in ethical companies, people view value as creation in multiple ways. Number six, willingness to change. Of course, companies only change if there is that willingness to change. It's an important ethical principle. And number seven, respect. Regardless of your title, regardless of your position in the organization, regardless of your gender, your race, whoever you are, everyone should be treated with respect. So let's talk about ethical decision-making models that leaders can use, business executives can use in their business. Leaders can also use two models. I'll talk about two models Leaders can use any of these two models as critical factors to consider when making an ethical decision. The first model I would like to talk about is, you can say, the PLUS model, PLUS, the PLUS model, the PLUS ethical decision-making model. And this is like a filter system that leaders can use for decision making. The first P stands for policy and procedures. What does that mean? It means that when a leader wants to make an ethical decision, they should ask this question: is the decision in line with the policies and the procedures laid out by the company? So this P will not work if that startup, if that business, whether small or big, does not have policies and procedures, because you need to answer this question: is this ethical decision I am about to make, is it in line with the policies laid out by the company? L stands for legal. L stands for legal. You ask yourself this question as you're about to make the decision: will this violate any legal parameters and regulations in place? Yes. Will this ethical decision I am about to make as an executive, will this violate any legal parameters or regulations in place? U stands for universal. How does this relate to the values and principles established for the company to operate? Is it in tune with the core values and the company culture? You ask yourself that question. This ethical decision I'm about to make, does it relate to the values and the principles established for the company? The second question you ask yourself is it in tune with the core values of the company? Is it in tune with the company culture? S stands for self. Does it meet my standards of fairness and justice? Now, this is tricky. If you, the leader, if you, the executive, you don't have your personal standards for fairness, justice, equality, trustworthiness, because you need to use your personal standard and ask yourself this question: this ethical decision I am about to make, does it meet my standards of fairness and justice? The second model that an executive can use to make a decision is what is called the character-based decision-making model. We have spoken about the PLUS model. Now let's talk about the character-based decision-making model. The character-based decision-making model was created by the Josephson Institute of Ethics, and it has three main components that an executive, a leader, can use to make an ethical decision. The first component, number one, all decisions must take into account the impact to all stakeholders. Yes. As a leader, if you're about to make a decision, you need to look at who are the key stakeholders. How will this decision impact all the stakeholders in this company? This component seeks to do good for most and hopefully every stakeholder and avoiding any harm to anybody. The second component is ethics always take priority over non-ethical values. As simple as that. Ethics should always take priority over non-ethical values. A decision should not be rationalized if it in any way violates ethical principles. And the third component, is it okay to violate other ethical principles if it advances a better ethical climate for others? What does that mean? It is possible that as a leader, you can be in between two ethical decisions. None is bad. All the two are good. But you have to make a decision and choose one ethical decision. This component states that you should choose the ethical decision that will impact more people. That will impact more people positively. Despite that you are in between two ethical decisions, which all are right, all are good, where on the side, use the one that if you make that decision, you will impact more people. Now, let's look at ethical action test. Ethical action test, which you can call EAT, ethical action test, is a test that any business person, any business leader can take and see their level of making ethical decisions. An ethical action test is made up of questions that you need to ask yourself when you're about to make an ethical decision. Number one is it legal? Is it legal? If it's legal, you tick. If it's not legal, there's a question. There's something wrong somewhere. Number two, the second thing to do with this test is ask the second question. Does it comply with our rules and guidelines? Every standard corporate structure should have rules and guidelines. So when you're about to make an ethical decision, ask yourself, does it comply with our rules and guidelines? The third part of the test, is it sync with our organizational values? This ethical decision, is there a sync with the decision and our organizational values? Will I, the fourth test to take, will I be comfortable and free of guilt if I do it? Will you as the leader, will you as the executive be comfortable and free of any guilt if you make it work? That test is important. The next part of the test, does it match our stated commitments and guarantees? Yes. Does the ethical decision match our stated commitments and guarantees? And the next, would I do it to my family or friends? Yes. There are some things that a manager will do it to somebody else because it's not their family member, it's not their siblings, it's not their daughter or son. But as a leader, when you're about to make a very important ethical decision, ask yourself this question: will I make this decision, or will I do it to my family and friends? Will I do it to people that I love? They will rearrange your thinking and make you make the right decision. Would I be perfectly okay with someone doing it to me? The popular saying that do unto others what you want others to do unto you. Would I be perfectly okay with someone doing it to me? And next, would the most ethical person know? Would the most ethical person I know do it? This whereby you can have a role model, you can have a mentor, you can have somebody that you respect, and you know that, oh, this person is very ethical, is truthful, is trustworthy, and they don't break their own rules. So if you're about to make an ethical decision, you can ask yourself, would the most ethical person, would the most ethical role model I know do it this same way? So if you look at this, you'll be able to see if you're making the right decision or not as far as ethics is concerned. I advise every leader to always go through the ethical test before making a decision. And let's look at the 6 steps to ethical decision making. What are the steps that a leader and executive can go through when they're about to make an ethical decision? Number 1, take time to define the problem. Yes, don't be in a haste. Do some analysis to know exactly what is happening or what happened. That is step 1. Take time to define the problem. Number 2, consult resources and seek assistance. Yes, resources, what do we mean? Code of ethics, policies, company handbooks. Seek assistance from the HR officer. Seek assistance from your immediate supervisor. Seek assistance from an external consultant. Consult resources and seek assistance. Number 3, think about the lasting effects of your decision. Yes, be sustainable. Think in the future. What will be the lasting effect of this ethical decision I'm about to make? Think of the lasting effect of also being unethical. Number 4, consider the regulations in other industries or in the same industries. Every company in any country is regulated by the government or by a particular department of the government or a particular ministry or a particular agency created by the government to regulate that industry. Make sure you consider the regulations in that industry. If you want to be ethical, make sure that the decision fits the regulations of that. If you want to be unethical, also think about what What are the regulations in place and how will it affect the company if I am unethical? Number 5, decide on a decision. The decision can be at the personal level or at the team level, which all depends on the situation at hand. But by all means, you have to decide on what you will do in that situation. And number 6, implement and evaluate. No one can benefit from a plan or from a decision that is not implemented. Leaders need to facilitate implementation of any ethical decision, and most importantly, evaluate their decision. So how can ethical issues be resolved in your business? Quick points that you can use and resolve ethical issues. Number 1, gather relevant facts and identify the problems. Gather relevant facts and identify the problems. You can ask 2 questions here. Do I have all the facts relevant to the situation? Am I making assumptions? If so, could I gather facts from somewhere else and use it to make my decision? Never make an ethical decision based on assumptions. Gather relevant facts and make sure you have deep knowledge about that problem. Number 2, identify the affected parties. Who are the individuals? Which department, which stakeholder is affected? In what way are they affected? Have answers to this question. Number 3, consider the ethical issues involved. For example, what do I mean? What are the professional, organizational, and personal ethics involved right here? You need to consider that. Number 4, identify. This is very important. Very, very important. Identify which fundamental principles are affected. Every good corporate body, every good company business should have fundamental principles that bites them, like a culture or something. What are the threats to compliance with the fundamental principle? For example, fundamental principles in any living organization includes integrity, professional competence, professional excellence, confidentiality, professional behavior. You can analyze which fundamental principles will be affected if I am unethical and if I am